Okay, this is what you look like so far. We've got the first light switch, second light switch. Our fan's going to go there. Before I hook up the fan, I'm going to work with this. That way I've got a little bit wiggle room. I'm going to gently bend these wires and fit them into the box. So that takes a little bit of doing, but just bend them. And you want to push these back as far as you can. Rearrange the wires as you go. And then these the screws on the back side are going to go into the plastic box. Remember, this is a plastic box, not a metal box, or even if it was a metal box. You want to push these in by hand, bend them back and forth in there, get the wires situated back in it. Make sure you can push this all the way in before tightening up the screws. You don't want to get it about an inch away from here and say, I'll just put the screws in and ram it in there. Because if something's amiss back there, if it won't go in any further, these screws are not going to pull it tight to the box. This is only a plastic box, plastic threads. You could strip out the threads out of the box, first off. Or secondly, you could start pulling apart or bending the flanges and that kind of thing on your light switch. So make sure you get it pushed in there and up tight first. Do a test, bend it back and forth, and then you want to get these lined up straight so that they're not crooked. If they are, you can bend it to the left or to the right, up, down, whatever you have to do. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so I'm bending these wires. I've got one bent down, one bent up, curly Q, and I'm just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth, look down in there and see what I have to do to bend it in there further. If I have to readjust the wires, I can with my fingers, up, down, and what have you. Okay, then I want to push it in there, make sure I got enough room in there. Okay, so that one's going to fit pretty good right there. Now you work on the other one. Don't screw this in yet, just get it up to this point, start working on your next switch. Okay, this is what our switches look like right now. I've checked that, that looks pretty good. This one's pretty good. Okay, at this point, I'm going to put the screws, make sure you put the screws in, and we're just going to snug it up. We're not going to tighten it all the way. We're going to see where we're at. Okay, there's another thing. This is another tip for you. As you can see on these flanges, right here that fit on here, there's a little piece here. It's hard to see in the video, but there's a little mark here. And when you put a cut-in box in, we got the flange on the outside. If we screw this on top of the plastic's not flush with the sheetrock, so it sometimes has a tendency, when you put your cover plate on, not to be up tight to the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these little tabs and we're going to bend those off. And then it will fit into this little groove right here where the plastic box is. As you can see, there's only flanges here and there, so they're separate. If you're wondering what that is, we're going to take these little pieces off, and it's going to fit in here. It's going to be nice and flush. Okay, we're just going to take these off with the pair of pliers. You just bend the tab back and forth. We're going to break those off. Okay, if you don't have any pliers, you can use your dikes. Make sure you get up close to where the little score mark is. Bend it back and forth. Snap it off. You do that on both sides. Okay, so ultimately that's what the bottom of your light switch is going to look like. See the tabs on the first one? We're going to break those off. So this is what you want it to look like in the end. We're going to do that to both switches, bottom and top. Okay, the reason why they have these tabs on here is in new construction, all your boxes are installed first, then your sheetrock. So you don't have your box fitting around the outside edge. Then you need that flange as big as possible, and that fits directly over the sheetrock. But in this case, it's going to set directly on top of our plastic box. I'm keeping you on your toes. Now, now we're ready to screw it onto the box. Okay, so this is going to fit right into our notches. Okay, I just want to show you too. I put the top screw in first, and I just start the top screw and screw it in a little bit. Then go down to your bottom screw. Get the bottom screw in, because sometimes the whole switch may have to be pushed down a little bit, and it gives you an idea of where to go. Because at this point, I can see this first switch needs to be tweaked just a little bit, because I want it to fit nice and tight, flat on your switch plate. Sometimes if you notice your switch plates and the switches aren't perfectly flush, the reason why is maybe somebody didn't take the time to make this nice and straight. So You look at it here, now you can reach your fingers in there, you can bend this back and forth, you can line that up. Then you can screw it all the way in. So we're going to do that to both of these. Okay, at this point I have the switches in there, and I'm just going to start tightening up these screws. Not all the way, but I just want to make sure everything's lined up, make sure I can fit into the groove here and all that. Okay, not too concerned whether or not these are going to be perfectly lined up for the cover plate just yet, but I'm just going to go snugly screw these down now. Okay, I'm tightening these screws up, and if you notice, if you're wondering how come I'm not using a power drill, power screwdriver, that kind of thing, this is an area where I like to do all this by hand. You use a power screwdriver, drill, that kind of thing. You have a tendency to not be perfectly careful. It's very easy to ram the screw in there and find out you still need to rearrange the wires back there in here. Or even if you've got everything right, if you tighten it up too much, very simple to strip out the plastic threads from your metal screws. So I like to do all this by hand. At this point, I don't have this tight all the way, it's still loose. And there's a slot on, when you screw this down, on the switch itself, there's a little bit of room to go left or right, which is good, because if your box isn't perfectly level, you can adjust this. So I'm just going to make this snug for right now, and then when I put my cover plate on there, I've got a little bit of wiggle room to start moving these around. So I get the first one, and then you play with that. You can adjust these, tighten them up, and it will fit perfect. Okay, that's what you're going to see so far. 2 switches, I've got to the top. Now I'm ready for my fan. So just going to situate that and get ready.